o'clock, Friday, February the 7th, agenda review for Wednesday, February the 12th, which happens to be the day before my daughter's 13th birthday and 2 days before Valentine's Day and my wife's birthday. So
Her
if
golden
anybody would like
birthday
to-
at that.
And Valerie.
Yes. With that being said, we're going to hand it over to Tom Stoltz to take this thing away.
All right, it's a very short agenda for next Wednesday, but we do have some legislative items to talk about today as well. So Nicole, what good news do you have to start for Wednesday?
For county announcements, the Register of Deed will be coming on Wednesday to talk about her land record search management program that she's rolled out. We will also have some more mental health resources, and then there will be a reminder that Sedgwick County offices are closed for President's Day on February 17th. And as always, emergency services are available by texting or calling 911. And that's all I have.
We have minutes, then we have 3 appointments. 2 are Animal Care Advisory Board and 1 is Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board. We have 1 single new business item, and that is Joe Thomas to talk about bid board. And then under consent, we have a pretty short consent agenda too. G and H are rights easements, acquisition of easements for rights of way. Item G is for a project, drainage project on Hoover, between 47th and 55th Street South. There's a fiscal note on that of $9,200 for the acquisition. Item H is for the Ridge Road project between 69th and 85th Street North. There's a $2,992 fiscal note on.
Hey, Lynn, that's District 4, correct? Not District 3?
That is correct. That would be District 4.
And then item I, I'm going to have Lynn talk about this one too, because it's a little bit unusual. It's a designation and classification of a roadway to a township. Lynn, can you cover that real quick?
Yes, so the subdivision for Grass Valley Estates has been completed for construction. Those roads have been constructed and met our minimum qualifications. We've also had the township look at them, and at this time, we are recommending turning those streets over to the Afton Township.
And then item J is a donation to the Suicide Prevention Coalition. Rest of routine business, and we do have a fire agenda just for bid board, and that's some miscellaneous equipment. That fire is acquiring gear, types of equipment. Fire here.
Yeah.
Kevin's here.
Chief Nelson's here, yeah.
And that is it.
Okay.
Agenda.
And then we'll do some legislative issues. Commissioner Howell he's testifying today, so he's joining us for Zoom. Anything, Commissioner, that needs to be pretty simple?
I have no questions on the agenda at all. I do have an item I want to bring up regarding testifying next week in Topeka on a bill. I want to just make sure that the commission is aware of it, and if possible, I'd love to have commission support. If not, I'll go alone, and I'll just be on my own testimony. But this is regarding the issues of corrections for Senate Bill 367. Again, that's a legacy bill from 2016. And what that bill did is it did take away some options from our judges and our corrections staff. This restores a very small number of criminogenic juvenile offender beds in our state with programming. So it's in concert with the community-based programming efforts of our state. It does take some of the savings that came from those changes back in 2016, and it spends them to create, if you will, a limited number of beds. And the location of those beds is determined by Department of Corrections. And this is funded through the state. So it's not a county cost, it's a state cost if they would do this. But we seem to have quite a bit of support from district attorneys and law enforcement and corrections folks. And I don't know if corrections folks are in the room there or not, but they might speak to this as well. Anyway, I sent you guys a copy of the testimony. If you guys have had a chance to read that, I don't know, but it's pretty short. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd love to field those questions or take recommendations for improvements if that's what you'd want to do there as well. So just want to give you a heads up what I'm doing. Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Commissioner House, so this would be the state would be building some
new facilities?
No, sir. They would be contracting for beds, so they don't need to build anything necessarily.
Okay.
They're providers. We actually have some YRC2 beds for kids right now. We have Kinlock Boys Ranch up at Youth Horizons up north. We have Lakeside, which now Amber Hope just took those over. Again, these are for foster beds, and unfortunately, there are some JO kids there. But much like those programs, there are places around the state we believe would want to provide group home setting for criminogenic boys. Again, it could be kids, it could be boys or girls. This is in the state's desire, where to place these beds and how many to place. There is a minimum require. Actually, I think there is a minimum number that they have to provide. I believe we've settled on a number. We were talking to Chairman Lewis. That may be something up for debate there, but the number of beds is really not my focus. Just the fact that we have some. And where they go in the state's not my focus. It's just want to make sure we do have a resource. And again, our judges have been hamstrung by this law. It was mostly good, but this was one of the unintended consequences. Consequences. I think we went just a little bit too far. And what this does, it just brings the pendulum back just a little bit the other way, not where it was, but just a small amount to provide some options. Right now, there are 0 beds in the state for this purpose, and that's not the right number. So I think everybody agrees with that. What the right number is, I think, is a matter of debate, but just having some would be a step in the right direction. So I'm not asking for us to return back where we were. I'm not asking for the state to put the monkey on our back here in Sedgwick County to spend another $1 million or $2 million a year. I don't want to go back to those days. But I do think our corrections staff are frustrated, our judges are frustrated, and ultimately these kids are not getting the services they need in the right placement. So that's what this is trying to do, is trying to give them a better option to help both our children in need of care as well as our high-risk juvenile offenders that don't fit any other place.
Okay. And so then the state will be absorbing any costs to operating costs and
Yeah,
to
and
contractors. We're not involved in the payment
no,
cost.
they have to run the whole program. The state has to do it all. Now, just to be clear, we don't really know the number. I know it's north of $50 million. It might be as much as 50 or 60 or even $70 million. And one of the mentions in this testimony is there's been temptations by the state legislature since then to sweep those funds because they can't find community-based program costs enough to actually spend that money down. And so they're seeing this ending balance just continues to grow. And so rather than letting that happen, just sweeping those funds, we would use those funds for this program.
Well, I appreciate that, Commissioner. And to be clear, he's going to testify on this, not asking for our support or anything of that sort. He just wants us to make aware of what's happening here. And I appreciate that. I've been in the room with him in these meetings, and Steve Stonehouse is also on. I don't know if he wants to opine on any of this. He's been in the room in these meetings too. And what these beds would do would be an intermediary step that doesn't exist right now. And this is a necessary thing. And what he's talking about, that these crisis stabilization beds and things of that sort, that pot has been growing upwards of $60 million that's sitting there. And because the ramifications are so high, the standards are so high, nobody can build out to try to meet some of these purposes. So I appreciate your testimony on this. I fully support it on a personal level and hope you have success in Topeka today.
To be clear, Mr. Chairman, I would like to say, if possible, I'd like to say that the full county commission is along with me supporting this bill and encouraging its passage. And if we can't say that, then I'll just say this on my own accord. So I'm asking whether the commission supports my effort or not.
Okay. Well, I certainly support it. This has an impact to what we do here, particularly in juvenile corrections, and we need some help with Senate Bill 367. So I think we got a consensus, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'll support you as well, Commissioner.
Yep. You have consensus. Let them know that we're all on board.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If you have any concerns about this or any questions, please reach out to me personally. I'll do my best to field those questions. Appreciate it, Chairman.
Good luck. Thanks. Hey, Tom.
I want to note that Commissioner Howell and Stonehouse both have the Mahomes jersey on. They are in sync, I think.
I've never, I've had this shirt for years. I've never worn it before. This is the first time I've ever worn my shirt, but hey, I'm channeling a win there for Sunday. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Tom, you want to go or you want me to go? There's a couple of three other bills actually, just to make the commission aware. I was going to send an email last night, but I thought it'd be easier just to talk about it today. So 2178, you want to go?
Yeah. Okay, so as the manager stated, we've got, I think, 3 legislative items I want to get you up to speed. on, and I might lean into county manager to help me on this. So first item I want to bring up to speed on is we heard, I think yesterday from DA Mark Bennett. He sent an email to the county manager and the chairman regarding House Bill 2175 and followed up later with his testimony on that particular bill. So just wanted to bring it to your attention. He has some pretty grave concerns regarding this bill. I'll just highly summarize what he states. He said it appears that this bill is intended to protect parents of children about whom a child in need of care investigation has been undertaken. The bill would instead protect abusers and undermine the ability of law enforcement to protect abused children. We did have a conversation yesterday with Jason Watkins. We felt that it was probably likely too late to get any testimony in ourselves. And so he advised that if we want to proceed on anything, and we gave this information as well to Jason, that it might do well to contact those members of the committee directly on this particular testimony. But again, DA Mark Bennett did follow through with providing written testimony. So just again, wanting to make you aware and then providing you with this testimony.
And
So,
I believe Mark was going to also call Representative Howerton and speak with her in person about that. She's the chairwoman of that committee. So ball's in his court. I don't think commission has to do anything at this time. We just want to put this on your radar. And then Jason also told us that if this makes it past committee, then the commission might have to get involved with the local delegation and talk about this before it gets voted by the body. So,
okay. The next item, and Tom, this is where I'm going to need your little bit of help, because I know you had a conversation with the sheriff on this one.
yeah. I'll take it and you
Go
can
ahead.
fill in the gap. So Senate Bill 178, I talked with Sheriff Easter on Wednesday night about this and some length, and I'll distill down an hour conversation into just a minute or so here. This is basically a bill which would require local law enforcement, that's police departments and sheriff's departments, to take on an ICE-like role in their communities. The sheriff has a number of concerns with the way the bill is written. One of them is starting at the very beginning, his officers, and I would imagine Chief Sullivan at WPD would say the same thing. Their officers are not trained for that kind of duty. It is complex. We had federal agents in town, and I've worked in this numerous times, where it's so complex that you would have to bring in an ICE agent, or back in the day, we used to call it INS, and they would give you the expertise to step you through the system to do what had to be done with generally a criminal suspect. We are not trained for that. So he had concern about training. That was number one. Number two, he doesn't have staffing to do this. This could come back to local taxpayers potentially. If the sheriff, and the way the bill is written, it is very forceful that if we do not comply, there are sanctions associated with that, including some loss of funding. So if the sheriff has to comply, he would potentially have to add staff and vehicles, because part of the process of this is you bring these people into the local jail, you process them, then you have to transport them to a federal facility, of which we have none in the state of Kansas. So the sheriff would have to drive these individuals out of state to Texas or Colorado to move them to their next stop. So there would be a vehicle or vehicles that would have to be obtained to do that. So his second concern, in addition to training, was fiscal. What this could cost our local taxpayers, unless there's some type of recompense back from the federal government or state government to help us to do this. And then thirdly, when federal agents process detainees, there is some immunity granted in case a mistake is made in an illegal detention. Local law enforcement, the sheriff, the WPD will not have that waiver. So he's concerned about liability and culpability for Sedgwick County taxpayers if we venture into this. So he's going to himself go testify on behalf of the Sheriff's Association, the State Sheriff's Association. He will take the lead on that. I don't know if his testimony is not to not do it. His testimony is to make sure that those three situations are reconciled within the bill and give his officers some ability financially and with immunity to properly do this. So did I miss anything, Tanya? Okay. And Justin, did I? And then I had one more House Committee on Child Welfare and Foster Care that Jason just sent this morning. This was already in committee yesterday. And this committee is looking at the definition of neglect in the state of Kansas. This again has to deal with kids and investigations by law enforcement on abused or neglected children. They are tweaking, this bill is attempting to tweak definitional kinds of what is a neglected case or a abuse case. The sheriff had concerns with this. Ed Clump, who is the law enforcement liaison for law enforcement in Topeka, testified against this. Mark Jordan, who is from RDA's office, was there to testify against this. There was some proponents as well. So did we give them a copy of this? If not, we'll get you a copy of this bill so you can take a look. And we haven't not talked to Jason about this yet, but I imagine his counsel will be the same way to talk to Representative Howerton about this for the sheriff or DA. And if it gets past committee, we may have to engage the commission on how to handle it in the future. So that's all I had.
Okay, I've got one more thing and I'm gonna pass it off to Lindsay, but we've got an update on the bankers bill.
So yesterday, Jay Hall with KAC, Kansas Association of Counties, reached out about some negotiation. I'll defer to Brent if he wants to speak to any of the details, but basically Jay had asked that Sedgwick County take the lead on negotiating on behalf of counties with the Bankers Association in order to try and come to some kind of compromise. I think, Brent, did you say the hearing is on the 26th? And so the idea would be to try and have that. So I'll just let Brent maybe speak to some of those court concerns and what he's going to work toward.
Good morning. As we visited about last Friday, this bill is being carried by the Kansas Bankers Association and the Community Bankers Association. Their goal is to get more public money invested in local banks. And I think that's a great goal, and we strive to do that as well. The bill has kind of two components. One is that any deposit of public money in a bank today exceeding $250,000 has to be collateralized by the bank. And they are seeking to create one big collateral pool managed by the state treasurer that would serve as a way for these deposits to be collateralized. They don't have to post collateral. We don't have to value that collateral. I think the goal there and what they're seeking to do, modeling some other states, makes a lot of sense. That in and of itself will open up the ability for some of the smaller banks in the area to bid on our deposits because they don't want to post that collateral. That's been a burden for them. The second piece of this, which is a little more contentious and has a couple of touch points for us, is one that it requires us to offer our deposits to local banks first, which we do, and that's currently in state statute, if they can meet the market rate of interest. This bill gives them some latitude for us to be required to place investments with them if they're up to 2 basis points below the market rate of interest. So we did it looked like if our deposits were invested in local banks subject to this, it could cost us up to $3 million a year based on the current size of our portfolio. So we've got some contention there. Other public entities have weighed in on that. The other thing is that if we invest debt proceeds, we have to, by IRS regulations, get a market rate of interest. So this is in conflict with the federal regulations of the IRS. So we're just going to try to sit down. After the committee hearing earlier this week, the House committee directed that everybody get together, KAC, League of Municipalities, the Bankers Associations, and work out some compromise and bring it back. That's where we are.
Right. The KBA didn't realize, do they realize their intent is well, but the impact is taxpayer investing money is.
Exactly.
Do they know that? Do they realize that?
And they have some studies or a study that they commissioned that kind of indicates the economic impact of the local investments. And even with that discount, it's got positive economic benefit. Eh,
Not for the
it
taxpayer.
still costs us $3 million on our bottom line if we have to do this. and
Cost the
it's fully
taxpayer
executed.
$3
The
million
tax-
in the bottom line. They should be able to play at the market rate.
Comes down to a taxpayer subsidy of banks with that.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for us.
Mhm.
That's just ridiculous.
But that's where it is at this point. Indications from Jay Hall this morning in an email is that there will be a hearing on February 26th on this bill and some discussions prior to that. Thanks.
Let us know how to help. I would just acknowledge that next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m., the Senate Committee on Transportation is having a bill hearing on Senate Bill 119. This is the Treasurer's Motor Vehicle Fund. Something is in our legislative platform, something we've talked about frequently. The Sedgwick County Treasurer is going to testify that morning. I think Johnson County is sending someone as well. They asked if I could go. I have a conflict. I can't go, but I might be submitting some testimony myself. I don't know if it's something that we would want to entertain as a board to submit some testimony. It's Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. I think this is something on our platform. It's something that we are significantly interested in. This is something we want to submit as a board, some written testimony.
Let's talk about timing on that. So testimony has to be in 24 hours in advance. So Monday morning. So we should work on that today. Then your testimony, sir.
Yeah, and you might ask Treasurer Brandy Bailey. She has her testimony written out too. It's got some details in there that might be helpful, Justin. If we want to take a peek at that and what she has, and
yeah, we can get that to you, Chairman, and work with I guess probably finance and treasurer's office to come up with some language for you to review.
That'd be great.
If that's comfortable with the board.
It's a big deal. So I just want to, and it's in alignment with our platform. So if an individual can't go up to testify, maybe a letter ahead of time might be helpful. Cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Anything else? Lively crowd.
Chairman, I just wanted to give you an update. The testimony for the juvenile offender bill now just got moved to Thursday morning, same time. I'm sorry, Thursday afternoon, 1:30 p.m. So just want to give you an update. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, Tom, we're good. Everybody have a good weekend. Who's going to win that game? Pete? Yeah. Squares. Go Chiefs.